Pride and Prejudice.
Unmissable, James King, Radio 1. A new adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. I obviously felt that we were really lacking in adaptations of Jane Austen, so here comes one. This is from Working Title, who, as many people have pointed out, have based several of their, most successful titles effectively on Jane Austen. So now they're actually doing a Jane Austen adaptation. You all know the story of Pride and Prejudice. You've all seen the television version in which Colin Firth became the most famous Mr. Darcy of all time, which is a role he sort of semi-reprised to some extent in Bridget Jones, because he is kind of Mr. Darcy, and it's a joke because he really was Mr. Darcy. Now a new adaptation directed by Joe Wright, first-timer, and the stuff that everyone's heard in advance is it's earthy, it's gritty, it's got mud, it's taken Jane Austen and put her actually in the English landscape. Well, yes and no. I have to say, if this is what passes for earthy nowadays, you should come round to my house and see real filth. But before we get on to that, I mean filth as in the dirt sense, incidentally.
That's a real enticing night out.
Exactly, as in the mud and that. Okay, fine. But anyway, it's pretty much straightforward Jane Austen.
You know what you're going to get. But
okay,
what does it add?
Okay, well, here's the thing, right? Firstly, it's not earthy in the way that it was sold for. There was some talk that the Austen Society had complained about the fact that it was kind of, that it was muddy and gritty. Well, it isn't any of those things. It's incredibly pastoral. Actually, the English Tourist Board would be thrilled by this because, yes, there's a little bit of mist and a little bit of rain occasionally, but basically it looks like one of those Hovis adverts things. It's really great, pastoral, English, lovely settings. The performances are all perfectly fine. Keira Knightley has got rave reviews, and I think Keira Knightley can be good, but I think I'm not as convinced by her as everybody else is, and I think that she's perfectly fine, if a little bit too schoolgirlish, to carry the central role. I mean, I wasn't won over...
and she's actually, I think, exactly the right age.
Well, that's entirely possible.
19 going on 20.
Yeah, but that's being the age that the character is written to be doesn't necessarily qualify you to give the character the gravitas that, for example, Austen would have given it. I also think there's a charisma problem with the Macfadyen issue, because the thing with Colin Firth is that Colin Firth is fantastically charismatic, and Matthew Macfadyen, I think, is a good actor. But what he doesn't have, and what Colin Firth had in that TV version, is that sort of incredibly steamy appeal, which made the video fly off the shelves when it was first issued on video. So my main problem was I wasn't crazy about the two central characters. Now, that's not to say that the film itself is without pleasures, because it's not. It's a good, romping, lively adaptation. It has several concessions to modern day inflections. It's obviously got jokes in it that aren't in the novel, that are nodding towards a modern audience. There is a great performance by Tom Hollander, who's the small and really, really obnoxious character who ends up marrying one of the other sisters, and he's actually very funny. He's very comic. He's got very arch quality to him, and he does it terrifically well. When I saw it at the premiere, and it was introduced by Joe Wright, and Joe Wright came on stage and he told this lovely anecdote. He was very funny and very self-effacing. I mean, particularly considering that the film is being received to rapturous applause, and it's clearly made him, and he is clearly a very good director, and I think in the future he will do terrific stuff. I don't actually think that this is the terrific stuff yet, but he told this story, which was that when they preview screened the film, they preview screened it in America, as they always do, in places like Redondo Beach. And after the screening, he and his producer went outside for a cigarette, and some American kid came out and said, oh man, you got a cigarette? And they said, yeah. And he said, oh, did you just see that Free movie? And they, without letting on who they were, said, yeah. And he said, oh, it was awful, man, it was really awful. And Joe Wright then said, the thing is, we didn't make it for the Seed of Chucky fans. Well, of course, this is tough for me, because I am a Seed of Chucky fan, although actually I think Seed of Chucky is the worst of the Chucky movies.
Really?
Although I think there are interesting things about it nonetheless.
Really?
Yes. So from the beginning, I'm kind of on the back foot, because I'm basically being told by the director that it's not made for me. But I thought it romped along in frothy, enjoyable, flimsy fashion.
How do we get to talk about Bride of Chucky in the middle of Jane Austen?
Because the director of the movie mentioned it at a premiere. It's a perfectly legitimate link. But I thought that it had nothing other than a sort of, an efficient brio. I did think it looked nice, and I think, as I said, I think Tom Hollander's performance was really, really good, and I thought that it sort of modernised it in a way which was perfectly acceptable. But I didn't think it added anything new, and I didn't think, for example, it was a terrifically redefining adaptation. It certainly didn't do anything extraordinarily radical to it. It just did what it was. And the fact is that, it is an interesting story, and there are great comic moments in it.
Okay, that'll do. Wendy on this says, saw a preview screening of Pride and Prejudice last week. Generally, it was a jolly way to spend a couple of hours.
There. Well, that's exactly it. That is, in fact, what I was trying to say for the last 3 minutes.
Well, Wendy,
she said it
you're
better.
booked. She can come in next week. And she doesn't mention Bride of Chucky anywhere. Generally, it was...
Seed of Chucky.
Sorry. Is there a difference?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Bride of Chucky, Ronnie Yu,
right.
Very good. Seed of Chucky, not so great.
Sorry, I mentioned it. The bits that were meant to be funny were funny.
Yep.
And the settings and countryside shots were all lovingly done. Tom Hollander as Mr. Collins was excellent.
There you go.
The tone of the whole enterprise was less precious than other adaptations. The country ball, at which Lizzie first meets Darcy, was an enjoyable earthy romp. However, Donald Sutherland as Mr. Bennet, why? and the parts of Darcy and Wickham were disgracefully underwritten, which didn't do Matthew Macfadyen any favours.
No, it didn't do him any favours.
Back to U-Boat 571 with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't do him any favours at all. And I think that was an absolutely brilliant review. Hit all the nails exactly on the head, and book her next time I'm off.